All right, I've got Leo Tonkin on the show today. He is the founder of Salt Chamber, and he's also an expert in salt therapy, and he's helping revolutionize the way that people actually think about salt therapy and respiratory health and wellness. Leo, welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks, Joel. Thanks a lot. It's been a while since we saw each other, so I'm glad that we're getting ready and doing this.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I got a chance to test out your salt chambers at the Bulletproof. I call it the Bulletproof. It's not that anymore. It's the Upgraded Labs conference in LA last year. It was an awesome experience, and so it's good to finally connect with you again.
Absolutely.
I'm always curious, though, salt therapy, I know it works. I understand a little bit about the science, and I know you're going to explain more, but I'm always curious to see how someone like you, a guy who understands health and wellness at a high level, then goes to the point where it's like, I'm going to make this my life mission and invest everything to launch a company so everybody else knows about it. So why did it become so important to you? Or what was like the big ahas that you said, okay, we got to start doing something about this. Let's create a company and let's change the world.
Yeah. Well, it sort of is how it happened. When I found out about it about 12 and a half years ago, I was surprised when I started to investigate the industry that there was only 10 facilities in all of North America providing it. And most of my career, and I still have a consulting business, has been in strategic planning, organizational development, leadership. I used to work with Stephen Covey back in the 90s with the 7 Habits program.
Wow.
And so I really started with the end in mind and looked at, when you start thinking how many people have allergies, asthma, COPD, and the more I started to research and myself, I grew up and had allergies as a kid. I had shots every Sunday. My dad was a doctor. And it was just amazing to me that here we are. And it struck me that we're such a pharmaceutical-driven society that when something goes wrong, take this pill or take an inhaler. And when I learned more about this and did the research, it was like it was a no-brainer. And so we've been doing it now for 12 and a half years almost. And what we do is we design and build facilities. So all the salt rooms that you go to around the country and really now around the world is where people are going and getting salted. And it's not just for respiratory. It is, but it's also great for the skin that a lot of people don't understand. And that's really how it started. And then, bingo, here we are. And there are millions of people getting salted on a weekly basis. So still, to the point, so many people aren't aware of it.
Yeah. I wasn't aware of it, actually, and it was a good friend of mine who has her own wellness kind of biohacking facility in California. She invested in one of the salt chambers, and she was telling me, Joel, you're not going to believe it, but I am getting so many good results from anybody that is having any respiratory issues that got the virus from the last 2 to 3 years that we are all very familiar with. Anybody that got this virus, or specifically people that were recovering from long COVID, she was seeing miraculous turnarounds with people using salt therapy. So yeah, talk about actually just that. I mean, just that alone. What did you see during the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, salt therapy, the way that halotherapy works, a lot of people are familiar with if they go to the ocean and, it's a lot healthier. That's a moist salt. Dry salt is what this is all about. And if you ever put salt on a piece of eggplant, it pulls the moisture out. Imagine that's what it's doing to your lungs. Salt's been used as a preservative because salt kills bacteria. Before refrigeration, that's what we were doing. So when you breathe in dry salt particles that get deep into the respiratory, one, it's anti-inflammatory, opens up the airways, your bronchioles, your alveoles, you get more oxygen. It kills what's inside of you, and it brings out all of the mucus. And respiratory, is the single biggest impact of what determines our longevity and quality of life. If you can't breathe, man, it's not a good life. And so there's been a lot of studies. There's a few doctors that are in California. One is an immunologist. Another one is a pulmonologist. And it's really helping people breathe easier, breathe better, getting their smell back, and so much more. And all of this is now being documented.
Yeah, very, very, very cool stuff. Talk about then what do you think is just some of the biggest misconceptions or biggest misunderstandings when it comes to salt therapy and what people don't get?
Yeah, as I've been doing this around the world, a lot of people come to me and saying, "Oh yeah, I have a Himalayan salt lamp on my nightstand, and it produces negative ions and cleans the air around." And when I first started this business, I was hearing that all the time, and we actually designed these beautiful salt rooms with Himalayan bricks, and some of them have Himalayan salt on the floor, but that's all decor. And there was actually a class action lawsuit against the manufacturer, and the physics and the scientists came out and say, "Now, there's no negative ions, not from a little bulb and not from an infrared. You can, we do a lot of saunas that have Himalayan salt in it. That's only for decor." And so that's one of the biggest myths, is that I'll just put Himalayan salt everywhere and I'll breathe in the salt particles. That's not how it works. You need a machine, a device that takes pure grade sodium chloride. It comes from the earth, but it's been purified so it's 99.99% sodium chloride. It's what they make saline solutions out of. And this dry part, this machine called the halo generator, grinds it into such a dry salt aerosol. And that's what you sit in a room or a booth, or what you saw at the conference was a pop-up kind of salt booth, so that when you're in there, the salt particles are in the air, and that's what you're breathing and getting on your skin.
Gotcha. And then how long does someone, what's the time frame that people usually will hang out in a salt chamber to see effects right away, to see those beneficial effects that we talked about for respiratory illnesses, specifically that virus that I was mentioning?
Yeah, it depends on the size of the space. If you have your own little environment for your pop-up salt booth, it's about a 10-minute session.
Oh, wow,
I travel with this home unit, which is about the size of this water bottle, and I'll sit in a shower stall. So that's just a 10 minutes. If you go to spas around the country or to wellness facilities, some of them might have a room with really nice chairs, and they have guided meditation. Some places are doing sound baths with crystal bowls so it's not so much just breathing in the salt air, but some of the facilities around are creating really cool experiences, breath work, guided meditation, mindfulness. So it really is working not just on respiratory health and your breath, but also on your mind and your body. And in those sessions, it could be 25 minutes to maybe 45 minutes. The more volume of air you need to fill in a room, the longer the session. The smaller space, less concentration.
Gotcha. Leo, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned longevity, and I never really thought about breathing and longevity. I always think of muscle atrophy. That's what all the biohackers are. Muscle atrophy, and if you fall and fracture a bone, you could die. But you made a really interesting point about breathing and longevity. And I was thinking I know some studies out there talking about VO2 max, and that kind of goes to your qualitative endurance and being able to breathe. And if you can increase your VO2 max, your ability to carry oxygen, and essentially you're breathing better, right? You can put more effort out and breathe better. You see longevity increase by 10, 12%. That's like a decade of someone's life.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Does halotherapy, have you seen anything? Does that help with VO2 max? Just out of curiosity.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, athletes are doing this all over the place. There's a facility up in Buffalo, a franchise, Next Gen Fitness. The Gronkowski football family have a beautiful salt room. You got professional athletes. You got scholastic athletes doing it exactly for what you're talking about. The lung function and volume, and the more oxygen you get in to red blood cells, better for your cardio as well. We actually have tests going on right now with some of the most premier athletes in the world, thoroughbred racehorses. They have huge lungs. And in California, at the Santa Anita racetrack, the Del Mar, here in Florida at Gulfstream, you've got veterinarians and trainers utilizing salt therapy for exactly what you're talking about. They're scoping the horses, they're looking at the volume of their lung capacity, and that's it. For humans, it's the same thing. Our respiratory system matures right between in our late 20s to early 30s. And that's why when you look at COPD as we get older, our respiratory system starts to wane. That's why so many people during the pandemic were so susceptible because of their respiratory system. So to your point, James Nesbitt, who wrote the book Breath, and all of the, has been around as well, talks about studies that were done in the 80s that if you've got good respiratory system, you're going to live longer and you're going to have a better quality of life. You can play a round of golf. You can hold your grandkids. You can walk that flight of stairs. For those that are into biohacking, your recovery time, your ability and your endurance, when you can actually breathe more, breathe better, and get more oxygen into your system, it's amazing what it can do, not only to your red blood, but also to your mitochondria and everything else.
Leo, on that note, let's keep the breath thing going. I've been doing a lot of resonance breathing, trying to help and increase my HRV. What about HRV? I got to imagine if my breath, I see noticeable increases in my HRV when I do these type of breathing. So if we're increasing our breathing, have you seen anything anecdotally? Are there studies with HRV?
Yeah, I mean, people that are monitoring it, that's the key. What are you using to monitor your HRV? Are you using a Whoop? Are you using an Aura? Are you putting on oxygen? So there's a lot of people that are doing it. There's a great product out there called company Pinoy, where they actually measure your oxygen intake and your HRV and all. And there are people that are measuring that, depending on what that you want to be doing it. But to your point, if you increase your lung function, you increase your lung volume, you increase your pace of breathing. A lot of athletes were never told how to breathe right. Most of us are typically mouth breathers. So when you can get to be better nose breathers, we built Tony Robbins his salt room in his home, and he uses it for sleeping better because typically when we sleep, where our mouths are open, our HRV in the middle of the night goes a little bit different. What if you actually train yourself to actually breathe better with proper breath techniques? That's what a lot of people are doing inside salt rooms.
Yeah, and you had mentioned COPD and even allergies. Can you speak more on that of what we're seeing just and what you're seeing from clients and people that are using this for asthma, allergies? I know when I was a kid, I had some of the same issues you had. So talk about that. And I'd also be curious, do you see like a complete reversal? Because, I always think about health from the holistic functional standpoint. And if you have allergies, I'm thinking, okay, we can do this salt therapy and it's going to be beneficial, but I want to get to the root cause. Have you seen kind of root causal things? That'd be amazing.
Well, yeah, I wonder about that because when you look at our society, we are so prone to medicine, diagnose and prescribe. I grew up, it was Actifed, Sudafed. Now it's Claritin. You turn on the evening news and watch the most expensive TV commercials on national news. Watch what they're advertising. It's asthma medication. It's COPD medication. And then you listen to the side effects. Don't be fooled. People that are on inhalers get addicted to the steroids in that. We have salt therapy that is safe for young children and babies. I got 4 grandkids. At every sign of sniffle or cold, they're here in our showroom doing a salt treatment. It's safe for the elderly when they're doing their breath work. Some that are even on oxygen that are coming into the facility. It's amazing. So I can't tell people that it cures. I can't tell people that it heals. I want to be cognizant of the disclaimers. But are people reducing the amount of times they're going to their inhalers? Are they taking less medicine? Are people off their oxygen tanks? Absolutely. We hear there's now probably around 3,000 plus facilities in the U.S. that are places that people can go for salt treatments. If you go to the salt halotherapyassociation.org. You can see a directory and find hopefully a facility near you. That's why so many people are getting into this as a business opportunity, because, to your point, how many people have allergies? How many have asthma? But even let's take it a step further, Joel. The quality of the air that you and I breathe, indoor and outdoor air, is the concern and the root cause of that. That's when I was doing salt therapy, I thought it was great to come up with another modality that was safe and drug-free that worked. A lot of research. You can check it out on the Salt Therapy Association site or on our salt chamber site. But I started to realize that the root of the issue, why a lot of people might have genetic issue, it really is environmental. And we now have 8 billion people on the planet. We want to live longer, so it's going to continue to grow our population. And when you start to look at carbon emissions, methane, what we're utilizing, the wildfires that are in our environment, climate change that's altering allergies, seasonality, and everything else that gets in the air, terrible. Here's the latest thing. World Health Organization says that 90% of the world's population in the world lives in poor air quality. You and I, we live inside our home. We spend probably 90% of our time indoors. Our HVAC systems, the things that we use to clean our home, the chemicals that we breathe, this is all that comes into us. We take about 20,000 breaths a day. It's about 3,000 gallons of air. And because we can't see it, we don't really understand. But if I gave you a bottle of water and it was dirty, you wouldn't drink it. Yet here you and I are breathing in the invisible, and we don't have a mechanism to clean it out. So just like you want to clean out your air filter, and people should really be doing that so much more often, but what do you do to clean it out? And halotherapy is like a toothbrush to your lungs. And so it's something that you don't want to wait to just treat symptoms. People are using salt therapy as a preventive and a proactive way of really keeping their respiratory wellness and hygiene intact.
Yeah, very cool. And like kind of you mentioned with just the immune system, using the salt to pull out that mucus, and like it seems like it's creating this, you're getting that clean antibacterial effect, right? And so that's really key. And I'm just thinking, you're right. I mean, I know where I live, like I see planes and all kinds of things spraying in the air. We have pesticides, we have glyphosate, which is a huge problem. And keeping that air quality pure as possible is really key. Can you use the halotherapy and just, I've seen the device that squirts the salt in the air. Can you use it just kind of like like an essential oil diffuser and just leave it out even though you're not in a chamber? Will it have any beneficial effects just being in the air?
I mean, it does. The only downside is that salt can be corrosive. So if salt is getting into your electronics, remember it's super absorbent. So depending on the humidity in your house, or if it's going to get moisture, or even the little salt particles are so small, your hair is about 50 microns in diameter. These salt particles are less than 1 micron. It's almost, you can't see it, but it gets into things, which is why you want to be in something that's enclosed and not just have it go out. Plus, you want to control the concentration. So while there may be a device out there that says they put salt in the air, I'd be very hesitant to anything that's out there. You really want to do your homework and make sure you've got a professional quality halo generator that does it the right way. You don't want to mess with what goes inside your chest.
Yeah.
But what most people don't realize is their skin benefit. Because these particles are so small, they penetrate the first layer of epidermis. Why is that important? The same reason of what it does inside the lungs, it does to the surface of the skin. It reduces inflammation, particularly with people that have psoriasis or eczema. That's when they flare up. People that have acne, it pulls the oil, it kills the bacteria. So a lot of people don't realize that it's also great for the skin. And so you got skin and lung therapy, which is how we started Salt Chamber, SALT, skin and lung therapy. And that's what it's for.
I love that, and I had no idea about the skin health, and I could see it like that. That's going to be super beneficial to a lot of people with that. I mean, I was just thinking of a client that reached out to me the other day with just itchy skin, and they're going through some kind of like gut protocol, and so now the outer effect is they got this itchy skin, and now his daughter can't fall asleep at night because she's just constantly itching, and she's up till 4 a.m. Like, what a great therapy!
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, your body, your skin bag is what is interacting with the elements. At the same time, it's what we're breathing in. So you can really kind of help regulate the wellness side of both your skin and lungs by using salt therapy.
Yeah, and speaking of that, and I know one of the guys that I'm sure you know from Young Goose, Amate, was telling me that they've got new studies showing that there is this skin gut barrier, also a skin brain barrier. And so there's a lot of communication that our skin, so the immune system of our skin, there's actually communication going to the brain. And so you just think again, there's so much we don't know. And when it comes to overall immunity, man, if you can start to tighten up some of these areas, whether it be respiratory or skin, you're going to see a lot of downstream effects overall for immunity.
Yeah, it is interesting. And I keep, as we've been doing this year after year, we hear stories. We've got veterinarians where they're doing our salt booth with dogs and cats that have, they're outside, they get bitten up, they get this. The horses, when they're on the track, it accelerates skin recovery. You now have med spas and dermatologists and plastic surgeons using salt therapy to accelerate skin recovery. So it's interesting what keeps evolving and developing.
Yeah, very cool. Leo, talk about just some of the different models, and if someone is interested in, making this convenient. You don't have to always go to a clinic. Obviously, you can go do that and do the sound baths and have that fun meditation and make it an experience.
Yeah.
But if you want to have it in your own house, like, what are kind of the options that you guys do to make that easy?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of people that build their own salt rooms. I mean, it's, depending on your budget and your vision, right? Tony Robbins, he built a pretty elaborate salt room in his home. And there's a lot of people that will do something where they'll take a closet and make it into a salt room. Or they'll get a salt booth that we have, similar to a sauna. If you've got a sauna in your home, you could easily convert it with our salt and sauna conversion kit with the halo generator that we have. For most people, and part of it came because of the pandemic, where salt therapy in facilities, like a lot of fitness gyms and wellness centers, they weren't deemed essential. And so they weren't accessible. And that's what made us develop a consumer product. And that's at salttherapyhome.com. It's where you have a same halo generator that we make for businesses and commercial use. It's made in a medical device facility. It fits all of the requirements. It stands about this tall. And basically, it has a remote control. You plug it in. You have a pop-up booth. And bingo, you can get salted at home, fold the pop-up booth away, and you're done. Typically, it's about a $2,000 investment. And I know we're providing all your listeners with a special code to get $100 off. And so that really becomes the easiest way. But many people are converting and doing things inside their home. Some that can afford it are building really cool structures. Dave Osprey, he's got, one of our pop-up booths. He's been moving back and forth to different homes. So he's going to be settling in. So there's different ways. And for people who travel, that's what I take with me. I mean, you could easily, when we first developed it, I was using it in my shower stall. So I would go into my shower stall, even though it doesn't have a ceiling, it's high enough where the salt's not going to escape out. And so I would sit there for 10 minutes, get my salt session.
Yeah, I like just even just the simple pop up. It's nothing fancy, but it works, and it's quick, it's efficient, it catches all the salt because it gets messy, like you said. And I think worst case scenario, you can make elaborate ones, but even just that simple plastic tarp is perfect.
And the salt, and the salt is so affordable. I mean, it's really costing pennies. This is not Morton salt that you buy in the grocery store. It is a certain pure grade salt, which is why it's super absorbent and super sterile. It's getting very deep down into your respiratory system. So that's the type of salt. And literally, it's costing pennies a day. We have moms that go in there with their kids. You've got people going in there with their pets. It just works. A lot of research. People do it preventatively. As you can tell, my voice is a little off. I need to be doing a salt session when we get going. I talk a lot. You talk a lot. But I will tell you, as I've been aging, and I'm now 63 years old, you start to notice things very different than when you're in your 30s and your 40s, and what you need to do to keep your lungs healthy. You don't think about this until you can't breathe. And so that's where you need to be looking at this. 6 years ago, I had cancer. I had a stage 4 tumor in the back of my tongue. I had a tracheotomy in me. And here I am in the middle of my business. And, luckily the radiation and chemo killed it. And thank God I'm cancer free. And all of that is behind me as a survivor. But I will tell you, going through that process, having to drain out my trach, and I don't mean to get anybody all, it was very, a hard time. But the salt, I would be coming to the office and sitting in our salt booth, and it was amazing what the doctors were noticing about how clean and how sterile and how healthy this whole system was becoming throughout the whole system. So I'm a firsthand believer of that. I wasn't a smoker ever. That's not where it came from. And I'm a big advocate about HPV, the virus that you get when you're young. A lot of studies about that, and that's what mine was from. And, thankful that I'm here and a survivor, but I do salt therapy regularly. My voice gets a little crackle because of the radiation from time to time. So I'm hydrating, and guess what I hydrate with? Salt water. I use, and there's a lot of products out there that people have and know, I happen to use a different kind of a salt product in mine, but salt is so key to people. So it's not just what you breathe. You got people that are floating in salt and flotation tanks. Salt is essential to our wellness. It's what we cry. It's what we sweat. It's so part of our system, and it's something that people need to be more aware of and how to clean out our lung system.
Yeah, so I love just kind of bring that gratitude piece back too, of just thinking about how essential it is, and how I wasn't even thinking about the floating, and then just how we use it for everything. And when we sweat and we cry, like, oh my God, like that kind of, man, it's so essential. I didn't even think about that. And I was also thinking, sometimes when my boys, I have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old, and sometimes when they get sick, I have this thing called the Navage, where if people never heard of that, they have like a neti pot or something you can use to clean out. But, my 6-year-old, he's not doing that. He can't put that up to his nose. And even my 9-year-old, I gave him kudos that he's able to do the Navage. But it's a hard thing to do. So getting him to sit in a salt room and just sit there and breathe for 10 minutes, that would be so much easier. So,
well, it is. I mean, neti pots, Navage, all of that, even nebulizers, that's a moist salt. And there's a place for that. But when you do the dry salt, it's like 100 times more effective in really what it does throughout the nasal, throughout all of this. Sleep better. We have a dentist that's been doing studies with their patients that have sleep apnea. This is what gets inflamed, all of this area. So when you're breathing in that dry salt through your nose, getting it into the system, it is completely anti-inflammatory. It opens it up. It pops people's ears. It's crazy. It really opens it all up. It's really great.
Yeah, very cool. Leo, I want to wrap things up in a little bit, but just anything I didn't ask you that you wish I had?
Oh, that's always something. No, I just think people aren't aware of it. As you start looking at self-care and people doing things for not only their maintaining their health, but if you're really into, longevity and staying healthy, aging well, what are the things that we really need to focus on? Respiratory needs to be something that people are aware of. It's something we take for granted. We don't think about the next breath we take. There are people in the world that have to. And when you start looking at what's in the air that we breathe, over the years with the fires, the things that's in the quality of the air, trying still to get to more systems where we're not producing so much off gases with everything that's around us, things that are in our home. It's just something we're not aware of. And I don't want to put the fear of into people, but if not now, when do we start to do it? Don't wait till you get sick. Don't wait till you have these conditions. Start it now. Check it out. And for those of you that do have these symptoms, it really will elevate that system. For those that are really into working out, improving their athleticism from scholastic age on up, whether you're a weekend warrior or an amateur athlete or whatever it is, this is something that people need to be aware of. And for sure, everyone listening to here either will benefit for themselves, obviously, but people that they know. I have an 83-year-old mother. She's still in good health. She comes and gets salted. It's something that just cleans people up. It's something you can do a couple times a week. Some people are doing every day. A lot of kids with cystic fibrosis, they're doing this. It's keeping them out of their hospital. So there's a lot of research. If you go to salttherapyassociation.org, you have the research. If you want to check out, this is a business opportunity, and a lot of people watch that are interested. Some people are health coaches. People are into their own wellness. People like to contribute to other people. Go to saltchamberinc.com. That's saltchamberinc.com. And for those that are interested in this unit and want to save $100, go to salttherapyhome.com and put in Joel Deal, JOELDEAL, and get $100. And, I'm sure you'll get our information as well. And I know, Joel, you've been a big advocate, something that you believe in. I love your passion for spreading the word, as well as making sure that people are getting the right information and things that they could use. So I really appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, yeah, no problem. Leo, I was just thinking, too, I love the word, you use the word salted a lot as a verb. I love to start doing that now. Go get salted.
Yeah, that's salted nice. And stay salty,
Yeah. Really quick, you mentioned something about cystic fibrosis, and I was just thinking, is there anything, and again, like you mentioned earlier in the podcast, we can't say that it cure any disease or that, but is there anybody that you've seen that's gone into a chamber and anybody that's looking on the outside say, oh, yeah, right, that's not going to help that person, and then you're like, oh, my God, like it would be like a miraculous testimonial that you've seen over and over again. Any of those like jump out to you?
Yeah, I mean, there was a young girl she was not quite a teenager. Her parents came to us about 7 years ago. They bought a salt booth that they put in their home. They live up in the Orlando area. They have a pulmonologist that they've been going to over the years. She has been out of the hospital where typically someone with CF, depending on how often they have to go, she was out of the hospital for like 2.5 years straight, not needing to be in there. If you go to our site, you'll see people that have allergies, COPD, people with oxygen tanks, right? Some of the aging seniors that I know have been out there. We put in the very first salt room in a nursing home in the middle of the pandemic in the Bronx. They actually did it. We're putting salt rooms in senior living facilities now. And they're going in there and they're playing card games in a salt room. So, I mean, I could stack up the stories, but yeah, there's been pretty, I mean, even just for myself, when I had my cancer, I saw such an incredible difference. We have people and the facilities and the members all around constantly sending us testimonials. And, over in Europe, interesting, this is considered a medical treatment that's covered by health insurance. Here in the United States, people are going to facilities and using their FSA or HSA money. I'm hopeful, to your point, that when you start looking at our healthcare system that is so driven by big pharma and the AMA, that we're starting to see a shift. Coming up, there's, the functional and integrated docs that really are taking this and assimilating salt therapy into their practices. So you're going to see a pendulum where this is really something that is being used because it works.
Yeah.
And it's safe, it's effective, it's less expensive. You're not moms you don't want to give your children steroid inhalers. I mean, the side effects of things, that's why these TV commercials go on and there are all these pretty pictures and everything. Meanwhile, the voiceover is showing all the side effects of what it can do to you so that you're watching the picture but not really listening. There's really zero side effects. There's not hardly any contraindications. People with lung cancer needs to make sure with certain lesions, if you have an open wound, salt's not good. It kind of stings. So if anybody has any questions, they should see their doc. But there's really hardly any contraindications. Safe for pregnant women, safe for infants. One of my grandsons was born, had some respiratory conditions. At 2 months old, he was in a salt booth. So very safe.
Yeah.
Very safe. You can adjust the concentration. People, they'll react differently. And so some people with bigger lungs and bigger bodies, they'll like a larger concentration. Some like smaller concentrations. They want to stay in longer. So we help dial it in for everybody.
Very cool. Any exciting projects that you guys are working on?
Always, there's always great projects working on, Joel. We like the fact that you're starting to see the mainstream, the hoteliers, Canyon Ranch, which is known as a beautiful wellness resort. They're now renovating and putting in a salt room. You got Waldorf Astoria, you've got Auberge. So you've got the higher end luxury resorts. And I'm not only mentioning it because they don't invest in anything unless they vetted it out, it works, and it's going to be something that's going to provide value for their guests. We've got athletes that are doing that now. We've got some interesting things I can't, really disclose at this time, but you've got professional teams really looking at how they're incorporating this as part of their recovery. Recovery is huge, as you know, and not just in the athletic stage, but with what's going on here. There's some cool projects about to be launched, so just watch the headlines. Make sure you put on your Google alerts, salt therapy or halotherapy or get salted, and you'll see what's coming up in the neighborhood near you.
Awesome stuff, Leo. And just last but not least, remind everybody again, I know you already kind of dropped it, but if they're interested in buying one of the home applications, the deal, it's they can use a promo code Joel Deal and they'll get some money back. And then also, just where are you at on social media other than the website? Are you guys doing a lot of stuff on Instagram, the podcast?
Yeah, we're on there. If you go look up Salt Chamber and Salt Therapy Home, you'll see us on Instagram. You look me up, Leo Tonkin, on LinkedIn, and I'm pretty active there. And one of these days, Joel will probably be on one of my podcasts as well.
Yeah, let's do it. Can't wait.
Yeah, perfect.
Awesome. Leo Tonkin from Salt Chamber. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity, Joe.